Hey guys, you know who it is. You know where you are and you know what's happening. Jchats is back. So just simply subscribe and share, and of course click that bell so you know every time I drop a new video, you're there with me. Topics may include growth, development, social issues, broadcasting, even marketing for one's business. This is where we learn together. Jchats, from interests to insights. Enjoy.
It's always about using key terms. So for example, if you're an IT professional, there are specific IT terms. Make sure to use those in your resume, because if I were to match the job description and the job ad against your resume, I would be looking to see if some of the key requirements for my job is within your resume. In addition, if you're applying for some multinational companies and international companies, they use web portals. So they use what we call applicant tracking systems. These types of systems ask you to complete a profile, to fill in the resume information, and then you press submit. And within seconds, you either get, your resume has been accepted and you have, you are not a suitable candidate for this role. However, we will keep you on file. And that process is automatic, and that is an automated process. And the reason why you are able to get that response in such a short time frame, it's because it's a matching of key terms between what was inputted in the background of the system and the key terms in your resume. So it may not be that you lack the skills, but you did not express those terms in your resume. So sometimes you may be applying for a systems analyst in company X and a systems analyst in company Y. And why we think it's the same job, some of the key terms may be different. The software that they actually use may be different. So the requirements, one might be junior, one might be senior. So we need to look at the key terms that are used in the resume and try to replicate those key terms, of course, accurately and where relevant within our resume that we are seeking to use to apply for the role.
I am so glad you're here with me, because being one of those experts in the field of recruitment and also career working, and you've done work in Trinidad and Tobago and by extension other countries throughout the world as well. You see the different languages or the different cultures that apply, and you know how to speak to us here in Trinidad and Tobago and those maybe internationally. You mentioned about those web portals, you called it, I think it's that you said. So some of us are not, because I was offended a few times. You instantly got back on, you're not shortlisted or whatever. I'm like, well, I just pressed send. So I'm glad that you're just highlighting this for us. And I'm glad you touched that point of the two different tailoring of your resumes that are needed. Also, what about its look and feel? Because sometimes you can just put a little too much zazz into one, or should it be just tailored really? That's also another part of tailoring, isn't it?
Sure. So with resumes, there isn't a hard and fast yes or no. We always talk about industry relevance. So for example, if you're going into a creative industry, marketing, public relations, these sorts of things, feel free, express yourself.
Right. Because you can creative.
Correct. So they like colorful things, they like diagrams, they like pictures, that's the industry that you're applying for. However, if you're going into probably the financial industry, which is more of a, what we consider like a straitjacket type industry, please try to have a more formal resume, well formatted, bullet points that are clear and easy to read. So it depends. It really depends. But what I would say is that with applicant tracking systems, if your resume is a little fancier, has tables, graphics, and you're applying through the automatic web portals, sometimes your information does not translate correctly into the system. So to be mindful of that. Because where you might have a table, that information may split your name, it may split your qualifications. I don't know if you have ever had the experience where, you upload something into the system and your address is in a different field. Your name is in a different field. And it's because those systems, they read the simpler, plain formats a lot better as compared to formats where we have a lot of tables. And so sometimes your information becomes misplaced and you may actually have to do it over, or it may just misread your information. So that's also something to keep in mind. Just a little extra creativity works. So in terms of how you probably lay out your format, sometimes, we use larger prints for your name and so, but make sure it's clean. Of course, if the industry calls for an extra creative aspect, feel free. It is best aligned to the position and the role. That's why we say your resume should really be tailored to the role that you're applying for.
applying for.
Yes.
What's your take on this new thing where we tap into online sites that assist with the creation of your resumes? What's your take on those?
The thing is, those sites provide useful information to help persons with respect to how they develop their resumes. Some of them are free, some of them have a cost.
Yeah.
However, in terms of accessing those sites, I think if you have accessed them once, twice, after that time, you should be able to continuously update your resume with whatever information you've gathered from the sites. They are a great starting point. A lot of them actually teach you how to format the resume, the type of information to input, but updating your resume should be a continuous activity.
I'm telling
you may not want to be relying on a site. You would want to develop that skill set internally.
I'm telling you, I'm learning that from you tonight, because this continuous thing of updating your resume, I honestly can't remember the last time I looked at mine.
Correct.
But that is something new. Maybe some person's looking on, they do that, but that's really good. One of the final questions pertaining to resume before we go deeper in career development, I've heard this many times, but you need to tell me as a recruiter, as also a career coach, is there too much pages to a resume? 1, 2, 3.
So the thing is, yes, as I mentioned, your first page should really have that impact. So try to have all of your key information on the first page. Now, based on your years of experience, they are recommended lengths. So we normally say if you have under 10 years experience, try to fit it onto 2 pages. If you have more than 10 years experience, we accept 3 pages. But I don't know if you have heard that recruiters and persons in HR, we have very short attention spans when it comes to going through resumes because you are not the only applicant.
Yes.
So we want to try and get a good idea of you in the shortest time frame possible. And if you extend your resume 5, 6, 7 pages, while we would like to assure you that we have been reading all of it, sometimes we don't. If we have an automated system, that's great. The automated system would shortlist and you'll probably get your email in 30 seconds. But if it's a manual system and we have to go through all of those resumes, particularly based on the job. So if you have an administrative job, if you have HR jobs where you have a lot of qualified persons who meet the criteria, you can well imagine how many applicants we have. If it's about technical job that requires specific certification and experience, sometimes the pool is a lot smaller. But when you go into general administrative roles, and so it's very large. So in that case, you want to try and keep your resume as short as possible. Any information that is not on your resume, feel free to explore it during the interview stage. You can always let them know, in this position, I've spent extra years, and I know these are some of the details, etc. But for your resume, we really say 3 pages. Anything past that really may not capture the attention of the person going through the resume.
Great information here inside of Jchats. Kymberly St Bernard, career coach and also recruiter and HR expert, as I always call her, just sharing some of the details pertaining to that job search that we may be embarking on. Let's be real, many persons right now are out of jobs, whether it's international or right here in Trinidad and Tobago, and the job search has begun. We have to try and find some sort of job, whether it's full-time or part-time. And part of that process is just making sure the resume is on point. So we went in depth about the resumes. What are some of the other things we need to pay attention to in that job search to be successful in terms of working ourselves together now, but post-COVID, holding down that job that we want to apply for? Because keeping in mind, things are going to change post-COVID.
Sure. So in terms of applying for jobs, we must always assess our knowledge, skills, and ability to ensure we have what it takes based on the job description or the job ad that we are using. So during this time, this is a good time to look at your short-term goals with respect to jobs and your long-term goals and see where the gap is and try to find online resources to help you fill. So for example, there are lots of free courses that you can take, Coursera, EDX, Udemy. Lots of people are having webinars, podcasts, just like this one. We have Harvard giving a lots of free courses. So there are lots of areas where you can find the relevant courses and training to help you develop your skills, whether it be soft skills, what we call behavioral skills. So if you need conflict management, if you need emotional intelligence, if you need problem solving, team building, Lots of these courses give you insight. And if you also need technical skills, you can also develop those online as well. In this time, some of the things that we thought was special skills previously are basic requirements. So things like building a website, things like, video editing. For training, we use gamification, which is like using polls and so to encourage virtual learning. All of these things are now basic skills. So what we should be trying to do within this time is be looking for opportunities where we can access these skills for free. Of course, if there's a cost attached, it's up to your choice, but lots of them are free, and we should be trying to pursue them so that once we do the course, we can now update our resume to say we have pursued X, Y, Z.
Can I still, because a lot of these courses that you speak of, Coursera as well, they offer the free courses, as you say,
Right.
but can I still, I'm applying to a job at your place, let's say, and I brought my resume forward, or I'm working on my resume. I don't have the literal certificate, because I think you receive that once you're paying.
Correct.
What sort of proof does one have that I did this short course on Coursera for free? How can I show that to you, the recruiter, that I did embark on this particular course?
Okay. So we do have persons who sometimes go on these courses continuously. So they do have a very extensive list of programs that they have pursued online. And while it is very good to say that you have pursued these 10 or 12 courses, remember you're making your resume suited to the role that you're applying for. So if you want to simply express that I have 1 or 2 courses that are very relevant, priority courses for this role that I'm applying for, you may do so. Most persons may be familiar with the program and have an idea of the content. So what we really want to see is your application of the content, and that will come out in your interview.
Right.
So
okay.
While you may not be able to give us the certificate, in the interview, you should be able to apply whatever knowledge and principles you learned in the course to show us how you benefited. So sometimes persons have certificates and they are not very good at bringing across those knowledge and skills in the interview process. So both go hand in hand, actually being able to apply the principles and having the certificate.
Having that jargon, at least, if
Correct.
you don't have,
Yes.
So what are some of those that you'd like to suggest us to check out for those free courses? Coursera. I heard you mention another one before. EDX. So
Udemy. Mm-hmm.
So those are the ones that we can certainly check out to
Correct.
try to. And do you think this is what we should be doing right now, inclusive of our quarantine time?
Correct. Yes, because it's online. Some of them are self-paced. So you can start it and normally complete it within a specific period of time.
Nice.
So I think it's very convenient at this time now.
So we're speaking with Kymberly St Bernard, and she is just really dishing out so much information pertaining to our career goals and growth during this time. What are some of the other things that you'd like to highlight? Because I know pretty soon we're going to be running out of time, but is it something that I didn't touch on that you think is extremely vital for us, those of us at home, whether we're pursuing a new job or things are just going to change? Because now many employers may be looking at the fact that maybe they didn't need that vast amount of persons that they had before,
Right.
So that's another one of the things that we have to pay attention to. So what can you speak to entrepreneurs maybe who will be now wearing that hat as well when it comes to our career development?
In terms of entrepreneurs, one area that we have not touched on that would be relevant would be interview preparation. So if you're going to be switching maybe from entrepreneurship and be looking for a job, you have to be able to sell the skills that you have gained during this period of time and say how it is relevant to the role that you're now applying for, even if it's a short-term role until you get back to your original passion.
Right.
You have to be able to let us know how are you going to add value in this role? And the best way to ace an interview is to be prepared. So it is critical to always start the interview on a good note and make a great first impression. So sometimes persons get asked the first question, tell me about yourself, and they're not prepared, or the answer they are prepared does not create a great first impression. So sometimes persons, they go into their life history, their background, about their family, and we have not heard about their skills and abilities that is related to the job. So persons should really be preparing a quick 30-second personal statement to start the interview. And that quickly demonstrates what you would bring to the employer. And it could be similar to your objective, your personal, your professional summary that would be on your resume. So it gives an idea of this is me, this is Kymberly, and this is what I bring. Sure, you can always throw in some personality. So I definitely like to tell people I'm a carnival person. So when carnival comes, I may not be at the office, you know it up front.
Admission up front.
Yes. But always give us some of your personality if you have any interest, so that we know, yes, these are things that we probably have at the office. If you're into fitness, we could see you join the team, we could see you contributing to if you have a wellness committee. So, give us some insight into yourself, but make it relevant to the organization and the role that you're applying for. Prepare for the common questions. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Tell us about, your best interests, your weaknesses, your strengths. Those are common questions. But most importantly, I tell people to use the STAR format if you are answering the technical questions. Normally, we have behavioral type questions. And for these, I would recommend that you find like your 5 best success stories. So the 5 times that you are most proud of in your organization, whether it be success stories, or sometimes there are stories that did not go well, but there's such a great lesson that you learned. So the STAR format is really to tell us about the situation or the task, the action that you took, specifically you. So even if in your group, tell us what was the role that you played and the results or the outcome of that action. So that's the STAR format. And once you answer questions using that format, it helps to give the interviewer some good insight into the situations that you have been in the past and how you handle it. And we can then say that, yes, these are situations we think would occur currently in our job, and we like how you handle it. Because sometimes your method may have been appropriate in your previous role, but maybe we deal with things differently in this job. So it gives us some insight.
So you got to learn a little character as well.
Correct, yes. So use the STAR format, and if things did not go so well, add the L, which is to tell us about the lessons learned. And in these times, once again, during COVID times, we may not have face-to-face interviews. We may have video interviews, even phone interviews based on the situation. So be prepared. You can make your notes, find a good location. I always say people smile as you speak. You sort of hear it in your voice. You come across a little more pleasant. And be relaxed and be comfortable. It's still an opportunity to showcase yourself, so make good use of it. So in terms of entrepreneurs, those interview skills would be useful to you in any job, any role.
Would you say those that the same things you just shared there a few minutes ago would assist someone who hasn't been on an interview in years?
No, the thing is practice, and practice is not only writing down your questions, because sometimes you write down these questions, you're in a room with yourself and yourself alone, and then you go to a panel interview with 5 persons, and they ask you the same questions that you prepared for, and you're just nervous.
Yes.
So if you have not been in an interview for 5 years, 10 years, I would suggest you actually practice, get persons to listen to you, to hear how you speak, to give you recommendations, to provide that environment that will be similar. Simple things, make sure that you're properly dressed, make sure that you get to the venue or the location on time if it's face-to-face. Make sure that in terms of having some water, these are things that help to calm you. So make sure that we follow these basic tips if we have not been in an interview for a long time. We could take them for granted, but sometimes just the actual experience is one that intimidates us. So getting accustomed to the environment is a key aspect of interviews. So even before we get to answering the questions or so, sometimes, we enter the office space or we start the interview, we are not familiar with Zoom, we are not familiar with Skype, and we are nervous, and then everything goes downhill from there. So if you have not had that practice, it can be a hindrance. So really it's about practicing. Write out your answers, prepare your notes, research the company. And when I say research the company, go further than simply going on the company website. Go to their Facebook page, see if you can find the employees, see what they are saying. If there are any reports online, to give feedback, so that you have an actual idea in terms of what the company is doing at present. Just put in the name in the Google search, see if any newspaper articles come up. Those are things that can help you prepare. Now we have LinkedIn. Look up to see if you can find all the persons who may be on the panel that might help to give you an idea. of the background, and so the type of questions that the person might be asking. So all these are things that could help us in our preparation.
You're showing that applying for an interview or go on that job search is not as simple as we think it is, just simply sending out that resume and hoping that we get called back. It's a lot of behind the scenes work that we need to apply to succeed. It's a combination of things. Many players of this game come together.
And what you said was very important. If you want to succeed, the persons who get the job, the persons who land the role are those who are prepared, and sometimes it does take time. Yeah. So it's not simply applying for a job today and having that role offered to you. Sometimes it does take time before the role can be offered to you, but nevertheless, practice, apply all of the information that would have been shared, and once the role meets your requirements, because also remember, the employer is interviewing you, but you are also interviewing the employer. Sometimes we get to the interview, we go through the assessments, and then we determine, I'm not sure if this is the role that I really want. I'm not sure if this is really the company that I want to work for after all of this information that has been shared. So it's also your opportunity to interview the employer, ask the critical questions,
right,
and determine if this is the role for you. And if it is the role for you, you will be granted the offer and you will land that role successfully.
So you're saying also that recruiters expect us to ask some questions as well?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. In terms of questions, sometimes persons ask, the simple questions. Tell me, in terms of this role, how long would it take for the interview process to be completed? When do you expect the person to start? But sometimes it's important to go deeper into your questions. Yes. So you can ask the hiring manager, what do you expect from the person starting in this role in the first 6 months? What does success look for me if I were to be selected for the role? What does success look for you? Tell us in terms of challenges, what are some of the challenges that have been experienced in this department, in this particular role? Tell us what has been done in order to help the previous person be successful. Those are some of the critical questions that you can ask to get some insight.
Kymberly, I wish I could have you here for over an hour, but I know Zoom is going to kick us out in just a few minutes. So just touch quickly on properly dressed. Now, your definition of properly dressed and John Doe's definition can be totally two different things. Can you just speak in a general sense, what is that true definition of being properly dressed for that interview?
So unlike some of the other areas where I would have said it's dependent on the role and it's dependent on the organization, yes. We would always recommend that persons be professionally dressed. So even if it's that creative industry, even if it's those places that have flexible work from home policies, so persons may be casually dressed, always be professionally dressed. We recommend solid colors, black and blue, gray, and preferably professional suits. So a full suit as compared to maybe separate pieces. Of course, if sometimes you have those good professional pieces to put together, that's great. But in terms of safe, it's always safe to go with your suit. Proper shoes, always well covered at the top. For the nails, your ties, your belts, etc., should match. In terms of hair, it should be neatly pulled back. If it's long, if it's nails, it should be well shaved. So we really try to stick to professional when it comes to interview dress.
Would you say for us females, more of a natural look in terms of our makeup, not too loud and pronounced?
Correct. Yes. As in the beginning, I would have indicated biases. So sometimes, we have our natural tendencies, but you don't want to create that bias when you enter the interview room or when you start that video call. So try to keep it as natural as possible. But of course, sometimes when we do get a job, we are our real selves. But we would like to present that most professional appearance for the purpose of the interview.
All right. So one final thing, and then if there's anything you do want to highlight, please don't hesitate to do that. Networking. How vital is that for that job success and career?
Networking is actually very important. A lot of jobs aren't advertised, actually. Advertising is a cost to the employer. So sometimes jobs are filled through referrals. Some organizations have referral schemes where employees are actually benefiting from making referrals with respect to persons who they think are suitable for the role. So networking is actually very key. You can network through your different social media pages. You can network through different associations. So if you're in HR, you could join the Human Association. If you're in engineering, there's the Engineering Association. But simply networking, building that network of persons who are key to helping you get a job will always assist you. And sometimes you don't have to actually say that you're looking for a job, but just seek information. So let me know what's going on in the organization. Let me know what's going on in the company. What projects are you working on? Are there any vacancies? And that helps you to sort of get information, and also depending on the response, you can put out your interest. So, that sounds like an interesting project. I really like to work on it. I've worked on a project similar to that before and had great success. So, people then say, oh, Kymberly, I spoke to Kymberly yesterday, and I think Kymberly would be a great person for the role. So you can network online. You can network in face-to-face events. Always be willing to share your story. Sometimes some of us are naturally not very much inclined to speak at events and so, but it helps. Getting your story out there definitely helps. So I would encourage persons to build your network and to showcase your skills. Sometimes they say, particularly females, we don't like to sell ourselves and, toot our horn. So I would encourage us to, share everything that we think is of value to us, particularly when it comes to our professional life.
So Kymberly, before we wrap it up, any final words to persons who are looking at us now during this quarantine time, and we are looking forward to progressing in our career? Maybe we just got sent home and it's something new we need to delve into. Any other things that you'd like to touch on as we get ready to wrap it up?
No, I'll just do a quick recap. So I know that these are challenging times, whether you're actually out of a job, it might be financially challenging, it could be mentally challenging, just having all of these restrictions. So sometimes it might be hard to actually make the steps, actually get up and make the effort. But I'd like to say a little bit every day counts. So it might seem like a lot, but every little positive step that you make can help you to get to that successful job that you want. Count the small victories. The right strategy would help you during the quarantine time. And just to remind you, build your online presence, invest in some career development, update your resume, and prepare for that interview. And that would help you land your dream job, I guarantee.
Thank you very much, Kymberly, for joining us inside of Jchats. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the viewers appreciate it as well. From interest to insights, we got so much insight from you and so much things we need to slap ourselves on the wrist. Persons like myself, we have a lot of work to do, and I'm taking a lot from it, and I'm sure our viewers as well. So can we just find out how we can connect with you, though, if persons have more questions outside of this conversation?
Sure, of course. I do have my LinkedIn page, so feel free to connect with me, Kymberly St Bernard. I do have my HR Avenue page. It's on Facebook and Instagram, so you can go follow and like and share the content. And if you wish to really get going with your career search, feel free to check out my website, www.hravenuett.com. where you can find out all the information about the services that I offer.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for your time, and be safe during this new life we call COVID-19 pandemic that we're living in. So I wish you all the best, and thank you so much for your time.
Yes, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity.
Of course.
I hope the information shared was useful, and I also want to encourage you to stay home and stay safe.
Yeah, and stay blessed. Thank you so much. Thank you for looking. Thank you so much for joining us on Jchats. Look out for the next conversation next week. You just never know. Always something very interesting to perk our interest and learn from. I'm JD. This is Jchats. Thank you. Well, this is where I say thank you so much for allowing me in your world. I know you got your things to do, but you still tuned in, and I appreciate that. So don't forget, click subscribe, click the like, share, and just let all of us gather from the information that is being shared inside of Jchats, even if it's the fun ones as well. Serious fun, whatever it is. Thank you so much. Be blessed. Stay safe. I'm JD.